Well, Connecticut recently held its girls' high school track champions, and a pair of biological males dominated the rest of the field. Terry Miller won both the 100-meter and 200-meter dash events, while Andrea Yearwood took second in the 100 meters. Their victory is, for them, good, but it's upsetting to many parents who say the two have a massive and unfair advantage over biologically female competitors. Officials say that in Connecticut, state law requires them to allow athletes to compete under whatever gender they identify as, even if they've undergone no hormone therapy. Joanna Harper is a transgender athlete and joins us tonight. Joanna Harper, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
You're welcome.
So I guess the question is there unfairness in this? You've acknowledged, I think in a pretty reasonable way, that this does give biological men competing as women, as transgender athletes, some advantage. And is that fair to the biological girls they're competing against?
It's absolutely true that biological men have advantages over biological women. And I think for adult competitive sport, it's important to separate those two groups. In high school sports, things are a little different. High school sports, we're not talking about adults, it's more about participation. But still, I would personally draw a line at winning state titles. So if I were making the rules, I would allow them to participate in the state meet but not win medals.
Huh, that's interesting. But that's not, and that seems like a fairer accommodation than what's going on, for example, in Connecticut. What do you think of the law there that says you can compete as the gender you identify with, even if you've received no hormones or had any kind of physical changes whatsoever?
Well, for most people, it's going to be pretty reasonable. I mean, for yourself, for instance, you're a 27-minute 5K runner, as I understand, so your progeny probably won't win state titles in the Girl Championship.
Probably not. That's true.
But for fairly talented athletes, I agree. There should be a cap put on, and I would do it at the state level. I would allow them to participate, but not win at state level.
Would it be worth having just an entirely separate category? I mean, because at some point you bump up against basic questions like why would you have, in a moment where we're not really acknowledging that there are just two sexes, why would you have sporting events segregated by sex in the first place?
Well, we have sports segregated by sex in the first place so that women have a chance to win things. And I think that's an important thing to preserve. And so, as I say, at an adult competitive level, we want to do differently than we do for high school. And I think allowing participation and inclusion in high school is important. But as I say, I would draw a line, and those talented transgender athletes who are biologically male, I don't think they should be winning state titles without going on hormones.
But
once they're on hormones, then the playing field changes.
Do you think in this moment, I mean, let's be totally real, we're not allowed to draw lines anywhere. I mean, how long would it be before the ACLU sued over that, what they would call a separate but equal policy, preventing transgender athletes from getting trophies? I mean, that wouldn't stand for 24 hours, would it?
There are 17 states in the District of Columbia that have the same rules as Connecticut does. There are other states in the country that have all kinds of different rules. Texas, for instance, requires transgender athletes to compete based on their birth certificate. So there are a whole series of rules, and I don't see the ACLU getting involved with any of these other states.
What about the Olympics? What should the Olympics do?
Well, the Olympics, and I was part of the group that put in the rules, in 2016 went to a hormone-based separator between male and female athletes. And I think that's an appropriate policy.
But doesn't that still gives the advantage to biological men, on average, over biological women, does it not?
There are both advantages and disadvantages. Hormone therapy makes a lot of difference, but it doesn't change height. So on average, transgender women, even after hormone therapy are taller, bigger, and stronger than cisgender or regular women. But there are also disadvantages. You have a large frame that's now being powered by a smaller muscle mass and reduced aerobic capacity. So it's like a big car with a small engine competing against a small car with a small engine.
Okay. Joanne Harper, thank you very much for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.